Welcome to the Feminist Park Podcast. I'm Kwame.
And I'm Leilani. It's great to be kicking off this journey with you all today.
Yeah, we're diving into work that's really closely tied to the vision behind the Feminist Park Project, which was founded by Hussein Stuck.
That project's goal is pretty ambitious, isn't it? Imagining these truly equitable public spaces, starting with the idea for an intersectional feminist park right here in Berlin.
Exactly. And this podcast, well, it's kind of an extension of that. We're going to be digging into the academic research that, supports and informs that kind of vision.
We'll be taking these dense, sometimes quite academic papers and really pulling out the core and insights.
And looking at them through specific lenses, things like environmental justice, intersectionality, anti-colonial thought, queer theory.
All the stuff that helps us think critically about space.
So for our first deep dive, we're actually starting with some background research that Hussein came across early on. And it highlighted something, well, frankly, quite jarring. That the benefits we think we all get from urban green spaces, parks and squares and things like physical and mental well-being, they're often deeply gendered.
Meaning women and also gender-diverse people, they just don't get the same access or experience those benefits in the same way men do.
Right. Less equitable access, fewer benefits. It seems almost counterintuitive, doesn't it? A park is just a park, open to everyone.
We're really thrilled to have you join us. We're taking a journey today, one that tries to bridge, critical academic thinking with actual, tangible urban change.
Yeah, and this podcast, it's a direct extension of the Feminist Park Project, which was founded by Hussein Stuck.
That's right. In each session, we really delve into these groundbreaking scientific papers. We're looking for those vital connections between urban green spaces, environmental justice, feminism.
Intersectionality, too, anti-colonial perspectives, queer theory, it's all interconnected.
Exactly.
And today, well, we're confronting something quite shocking, really. It's from Hussein's foundational research. This profound gap, this disparity in how urban green spaces are accessed and experienced based on gender.
It's deeply concerning, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
When you think about the benefits, physical, mental, that these vital natural areas offer, the idea that they're inherently gendered, well, it's troubling.
Yeah. Women, quite simply, just have less equitable access than men.
Right. And there's this quote from Fernandez-Nunez and others back in 2022 that puts it so starkly. They said, while men are well catered for in these spaces, safety, accessibility, women are often left out in their own needs and preferences.
Some parks, because of their amenities, features, and design, are seemingly more oriented to men's needs and preferences, thus being more used by men than women. It's right there.
It's stark.
And this isn't just some small oversight. It feels like a profound societal blind spot. The pervasive lack of gender disaggregated data in studies on green spaces, that's a huge research gap.
It really is. And it directly reflects and honestly perpetuates unequal power structures. It leaves critical stories untold, needs unmet.
And in our world, which is urbanizing so fast.
That just makes the problem worse, doesn't it? It's a stark reminder that just growing cities without that critical, inclusive lens, well, it just deepens the inequalities that are already there.
So here at Unseen Spaces, we don't just, skim the papers. We really dissect them.
Right. Using the framework of the Feminist Park Project, it's like we apply this multi-layered analysis to everything we look at.
We start with a general academic analysis, looking rigorously at the research question, the methods, findings, conclusions, identifying strengths, limitations, what it means for policy or future research.
And then we bring in the specific lenses, like the gender and intersectionality lens, scrutinizing how data is broken down, or usually not broken down, by gender, exploring lived experiences, challenging this idea of women as one single group.
Because the realities are so diverse, shaped by all those intersecting identities.
Exactly. And the environmental justice lens, asking, who actually benefits from these green spaces? Who carries the burdens? We look for equitable access issues, disproportionate harms, the history behind today's inequities.
Then there's the anti-colonial lens we have to ask. Are colonial ways of thinking still influencing how we plan and use urban land? What about indigenous practices? How does history still impact cities today?
Critical questions. And the queer theory lens helps us explore the experiences of LGBTQIA+ individuals. It pushes us to question those heteronormative assumptions often baked into design and research and figure out how to make public space truly inclusive for everyone.
And finally, maybe most crucially for us.
Yes, the practical application.
Yeah.
How does this paper actually support or maybe challenge the mission of the Feminist Park Project? what specific insights can we pull out? What have we maybe overlooked before that can help us design for liberation?
But, it's not just about pointing out the problems.
No, definitely not.
It's really about seizing these huge opportunities. If we address these gaps, we can fundamentally rethink urban design. We can reclaim public spaces, make them truly democratic, truly inclusive.
It really is about unlocking broader societal benefits.
For everyone.
Okay, so to kick off today's deep dive into these vital topics, where are we starting?
We're exploring a really fascinating paper today by Lefebvre. It's titled Claiming Space for an Engaged Anthropology.
And our mission really is to try and uncover these hidden systems of exclusion, to understand how space, the physical world around us, shapes our lives in really surprising, often invisible ways.
Right. So if we're talking about fixing disparities in parks and green spaces, how does anthropology get involved? What does it mean for anthropology to be engaged in tackling problems like this? What is engaged anthropology?
That's a great question. Engaged anthropology, at its core, is really rooted in a commitment to the people anthropologists work with, the informants, the communities.
Okay.
It means taking a stance based on values, ensuring research respects dignity and rights, and, importantly, actively promoting social justice, especially for people who are marginalized or harmed by, say, exclusionary policies.
So it's not just observing from a distance.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Historically, it grew out of efforts to actually remedy social problems, to critique inequality, and to work with communities collaboratively, not just studying them from above.
Any examples?
Oh, sure. Think of figures like Margaret Mead or Ruth Benedict, Franz Boas even. They tackled big national and international issues using their anthropological insights. And, the Feminist Park Project itself really embodies this engaged approach by directly confronting those gendered inequalities in green spaces we talked about.
That makes a lot of sense. It's anthropology with a purpose, really.
Exactly.
Okay, so the core concept you mentioned from Lowe's paper is spatializing culture. How does that connect to engaged anthropology and the work we're doing? What does it actually mean to spatialize culture?
Right, spatializing culture. It essentially means studying culture, studying political economy, but through the very tangible lens of space and place.
Okay, so using space as the lens.
Precisely. Think about it. Every street corner, every park bench, every building. It isn't just there. It's like a silent witness, holding stories of power struggles, hidden biases, contested histories. So spatializing culture means we're not just looking at the space, we're looking through it, trying to uncover those invisible forces that shape our daily lives, our interactions.
That really shifts the perspective. It's not just a backdrop.
Not at all. It's an active participant in social justice or injustice. Seeing the world that way, that's the real insight.
So practically speaking, it helps people understand their everyday surroundings better and maybe gives them ground to stand on if changes are proposed that might harm their community or culture.
Yes, absolutely. It makes abstract inequalities concrete, tangible. You can point to the design of a park, the lack of lighting, the placement of benches, and analyze why it feels unwelcoming or unsafe for certain groups. It gives you the tools.
That sounds incredibly useful for the Feminist Park Project. We need tools to analyze why spaces aren't working, especially for women and diverse communities.
Precisely. It brings those big ideas about inequality right down to the pavement, to the park layout.
Okay, theory is powerful, but I want to see how this plays out. You mentioned the paper has examples.
It does, and this is where it gets really interesting. We're going to look at 3 really diverse examples from Lefebvre's field work to illustrate this. First, we'll revisit the history of Spanish-American plazas, which has some surprises.
Oh, okay.
Then we'll jump to contemporary Brooklyn, to the vibrant Moore Street market.
Right.
And finally, we'll look at the dynamics of gated communities and cooperative housing, these seemingly private spaces.
Sounds like a great journey. But before we hit those examples, let's dig a bit deeper into the theory itself. You mentioned spatializing culture builds on other thinkers.
Yes, definitely. It really draws on insights from particularly French social theorists, people like Bourdieu, Foucault, and maybe most importantly, Henri Lefebvre.
Lefebvre, right. His idea about the production of space.
Exactly. His key idea, which is central here, is that space is never neutral. It's socially produced, it's constructed. It always embodies meaning, reflects power dynamics. It's a field of action, not just a container.
And Lefebvre takes that and expands on it.
She does. She outlines 4 key processes that she sees as contributing to this spatializing culture, ways we can actually see it happening.
4 processes. Okay, let's unpack those. This idea of space being produced and constructed feels important. How does she break it down?
Okay, so the first one is social production. This is maybe the most straightforward. It's about the physical creation of the material settings around us.
Like the actual building of
Right.
things.
Influenced by social factors, economic forces, ideology, technology, all the things that go into physically shaping a place.
Hmm.
Think concrete, steel, planning regulations.
Got it. What's next?
Second is social construction. This is more about the meaning making. It's the phenomenological and symbolic experience of space.
So how we perceive it and what it means to us.
Exactly. It's shaped by our social interactions, our memories, images we associate with a place, how we use it day to day, how a simple park becomes our park because of shared picnics or community events. That's social construction happening.
Okay, production is the physical, construction is the meaning. What about us as individuals?
That's the third one. Embodiment. This is really fascinating. It's about how the individual person, you, me, the listener, as a mobile spatiotemporal unit, actually creates and is shaped by space.
A mobile spatiotemporal unit. Okay.
Yeah, sounds a bit academic, but basically it means you moving through time and space. Your body, your movements, your experiences, they actively shape the space. Think about a path worn into the grass in a park, deviating from the paved walkway.
Because that's where people actually walk.
Precisely. People's embodied movements are literally reshaping the physical environment. And at the same time, the space is shaping how you move, where you feel comfortable. It's a two-way street.
So our presence, our actions, they imprint on the space.
They really do. And the fourth process ties it all together. Discursive practices.
Discourse, so language, media.
Yes. The role of language, media, narratives in transforming the meaning of spaces. Think about how news reports focusing on crime in a specific neighborhood can drastically change public perception of a park there.
Even if nothing physically changed in the park itself.
Right. The discourse shapes the experience.
Yeah.
It influences who feels safe going there, who avoids it. This is incredibly relevant for the Feminist Park Project because discourse around safety, danger, and who belongs so often impacts women's access to and use of public spaces.
That makes perfect sense. Wow. Production, construction, embodiment, discourse. It shows just how layered and, well, not neutral our environments are. Okay, I'm ready to see this in action. Let's go to that first example. The Spanish-American Plaza. You said there was a twist.
There really is. The conventional wisdom, what's often taught, is that the plaza design comes straight from Europe. People point to the 1573 laws of the Indies from Spain as a blueprint.
Okay, that sounds familiar.
But Lowe's research and others she draws on suggest this overlooks much earlier indigenous practices. And here's the kicker. Madrid's famous Plaza Mayor, finished in 1617.
Yeah.
It may actually have been stimulated by urban design experiments happening in the New World, not the other way around.
Wow, really? So the influence flowed back to Europe? That flips the script completely.
It absolutely challenges that long-held Eurocentric view. We know that large ceremonial plazas were absolutely central to major pre-Columbian cities. Think of Tenochtitlan, which is now Mexico City, or Cusco in Peru.
Huge, important public spaces.
Exactly. And the Spaniards, when they arrived, they were actually quite impressed by the grandeur and order of these indigenous cities. And what did they often do? They built their colonial structures directly on top of these existing indigenous foundations.
Right on top.
Right on top. So here you see social production, clearly the Spanish building their churches, their government buildings. But the real power of social construction and embodiment comes through because the indigenous meaning didn't just vanish. It persisted, almost underground, through the use of original stones, the knowledge of the indigenous laborers who built the new structures.
That concept you mentioned, superposition, building over the old, it wasn't just replacement then, it was layered, contested.
Yeah. Beautifully put. It was a contested act. Colonial plazas, churches built right on the foundations of Mexica or Maya originals. Mexico City's Zocalo is a prime example, or sites archaeologists have studied in Belize like Tipu and Lamanai.
Wow.
And this act of superposition, plus using original stones, indigenous workers, maintaining certain spatial relationships, it meant the new forms couldn't entirely erase the old meanings. The act of building on top is itself a powerful discursive practice, right? A statement of dominance.
But one that was subtly resisted.
Exactly. Indigenous identity, spiritual power, cultural memory, it could persist, embedded in the very ground, the stones, the layout, even if hidden from colonial eyes.
So from that engaged anthropology perspective you talked about, how does uncovering this history help? Especially thinking about our project, the Feminist Park Project. Can this idea of superposition apply today? Maybe layers of gendered exclusion or those anti-colonial issues hidden in plain sight in park designs?
Absolutely. This kind of spatial analysis does a crucial engaged work. First, It academically pushes back against those simplistic, Eurocentric histories. It reclaims the plaza's complex history and meaning for indigenous peoples, validating their knowledge, their planning skills, their designs.
Giving credit where it was erased.
That precisely.
Yeah.
And for the Feminist Park Project, it's a vital lesson. It teaches us that what looks like a neutral or modern park design might actually be built upon unexamined layers of historical bias, maybe colonial, maybe patriarchal, maybe class-based, that continue to shape who feels welcome, who feels safe, who belongs there today.
So we have to dig deeper than the surface layer.
We absolutely do. We need to question the given in landscape design.
It's incredible how spaces hold on to history, onto resistance, even for centuries. But let's fast forward. What about our modern cities? Do contemporary spaces tell similar stories of contested meaning, hidden layers? Our next example, you said, takes us to Brooklyn.
Yes, to the Moore Street Market. It's physically, it's this sort of squat white cement building, not imposing from the outside maybe, but inside. It's just buzzing, so vibrant. A real mix of Latino cultures. You've got Puerto Rican, Dominican, Ecuadorian, Mexican, Nicaraguan vendors, customers.
A real hub.
Totally. Salsa music playing, the smell of amazing food, people catching up doing their shopping. It's a clear center of community life, a perfect example of social production, creating this space for cultural vibrancy.
It sounds wonderful, a vital place. So naturally, someone tried to shut it down.
Slight chuckle.
Yeah.
You guessed it. The New York City Economic Development Corporation, the EDC, they announced plans to close it. The idea was to replace it with an affordable housing project, which often signals gentrification in these contexts.
And the community.
They fought back. Hard. Local groups mobilized, faculty and graduate students from the City University of New York got involved doing engaged research, actually. Even reporters from the New York Times covered it.
Media attention helps.
Definitely. And political intervention was key. Right. U.S. Representative Nydia Velázquez, State Assemblyman Vito Lopez, they stepped in and eventually secured about $3.2 million in federal funding to keep Moore Street open and renovated.
Wow, that's a real victory for community advocacy. So how did the research there use that spatializing culture lens? What did they uncover beyond just the fight to save the building?
Well, the research, including Lowe's, went beyond just the physical structure. They looked at what she calls embodied space.
Embodied space again. So the people moving through it, their experiences?
Exactly. Their mobility, their emotions, the meanings they attach to the market, the physical vibrancy, that's the social production. But its identity, its feeling comes from the people. And crucially, they found the market functions as a translocal place.
Translocal, meaning?
Meaning it connects people across different locations. It links the vendors and shoppers there in Brooklyn back to their homelands through the specific food sold, the music played, the transnational trade networks that supply the goods, the remittances sent back home. Relationships stretch far beyond the market walls.
So it's like a little piece of home and a connection point right there in Brooklyn. It's embodiment again, isn't it? People's movements, their connections, making the space what it is.
Perfectly described. And, as often happens, there were conflicting narratives about the market itself, competing meanings.
How so?
Well, the community, the users, they saw it as the center of the Latino community, this vital hub. But city officials, the EDC narrative, they described it using words like forlorn, decaying, deteriorating.
That's a stark difference in perception.
It really is. And that's discursive practice in action, isn't it? A battle over language, over how the space is defined and valued, whose narrative wins can determine its future.
Absolutely. So thinking again about the Feminist Park Project, this idea of translocality and these battling narratives, how does that inform how we should approach designing green spaces, especially for diverse communities, diverse groups of women who might have these complex connections and face conflicting views about how space should be used?
It's hugely informative. This research really highlighted how culturally diverse urban public spaces get created and sustained. It's not just about the physical design. It's about understanding these translocal connections, the embodied spatiality, how people live in and through the space.
Right.
For our work, it means we have to recognize that a park, for instance, isn't just grass and trees. It's potentially a nexus of personal histories, global ties, fluid identities. We absolutely must listen to how different communities, including women from diverse backgrounds, actually talk about and experience these spaces.
And challenge those official narratives that might dismiss or overlook the nuanced ways these spaces are truly used and valued.
Exactly. We need to get beyond the forlorn, decaying label and see the vibrant life that's actually there.
Okay, so we've seen contested history in plazas, vibrant translocal life in a market. Now, let's shift focus. We're moving from public spaces to private residential ones, gated communities, cooperatives. This brings in that term you mentioned earlier, securitization.
That's right. And with gated communities, the obvious thing is the gate, the wall, physical limits on entry.
Yeah, keeps people out.
It does. But the impact on social relations, on feelings of safety or exclusion, it goes much further than just the physical barrier.
Yeah.
It's deeply tied up with legal arrangements like, do you own your house but share common facilities, and governance structures, homeowner associations making rules.
Okay, so securitization isn't just about security guards and cameras. It sounds bigger, more systemic.
It is. It's much broader. In this context, Loge finds securitization as this web, this interlocking system of spatial strategies, yes, but also legal, institutional, governmental, and even financial strategies,
Okay.
all aimed at producing a sense of security or perhaps control within private housing environments. So it's not just locking your door. It's the whole package, the rules, the financial checks, the subtle cues, the feeling a place cultivates that determines who feels like they belong and who feels excluded, sometimes without any wall at all.
And you mentioned earlier there's a difficult history here.
A crucial and often painful history. Both gated communities and housing cooperatives, in the U.S. context especially, evolved out of a long history of racist practices designed to segregate housing.
Like what specifically?
Things like racially restrictive deed covenants, clauses written right into property deeds saying who couldn't live there, redlining by banks, denying mortgages in certain neighborhoods, often black neighborhoods, selective mortgage lending.
Even after those were legally challenged.
Yes. Even after the Supreme Court ruled against enforced racial covenants in 1948, other, more subtle, more invisible forms of social control emerged to maintain segregation, to limit who could live where. And this is where co-ops become a really interesting comparison point.
Cooperatives. Like apartment buildings where residents own shares. They often sound quite democratic.
They can seem that way, based on shared ownership. But in practice, they can be intensely exclusionary.
How do they manage that exclusion then if it's not always physical gates like in a gated community?
The key difference often lies in the financial screening process. Gated communities rely more on the physical barriers and maybe the price point. Co-ops, especially in places like New York City, add this incredibly powerful layer, the co-op board interview and financial review.
Ah, the infamous board approval.
Exactly. Boards have notorious power to refuse prospective buyers, even buyers who are perfectly qualified for a mortgage, who have the money. Legally, they can't discriminate based on race, ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation.
No.
But they can refuse someone they deem a financial risk, or perhaps someone who they feel won't fit in socially. And this financial justification can become a sort of discursive practice, a way to mask other biases.
I remember seeing a quote in the source material, something shocking about a board asking, "Do you cook any ethnic food that smells offensive?"
Yes, that's a real example cited. It's appalling. It shows how you can imply discrimination, screen people out based on assumptions about their lifestyle or background without explicitly stating a racist or otherwise illegal reason.
It allows residents to maintain that desire to live with people like us, as the research puts it.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that desire, however innocently it might feel to some residents, can unfortunately lead to what some scholars call laissez-faire racism, a kind of hands-off prejudice and other forms of discrimination. It's all wrapped up in preserving property values and a certain kind of social environment.
There was another quote, something like, "You're colorblind, but you don't see that many colors," when talking about income screens.
Yes, that quote really nails it. It highlights how financial hurdles and these subtle social judgments can effectively create homogeneity, often excluding people of color, people from different class backgrounds, even based on perceived sexuality. The research found examples where residents felt pressure to conform to certain norms to keep their place. This is where the social construction of who belongs becomes incredibly powerful and, frankly, insidious.
It all feels very tied into bigger economic and political trends.
It absolutely is. Lowe connects these trends directly to broader neoliberal policies. The idea that market rationality, market thinking should saturate everything, including governance.
So running communities like businesses.
In a way, yes. And this often strips away commitments to broader political democracy or social equity when it comes to housing. It ends up reinforcing social and racial segregation through these private, often undemocratic legal arrangements and governance structures like homeowner associations and co-op boards.
Okay, thinking about the Feminist Park Project again. How does understanding this really complex system of securitization beyond just walls help us think about public green spaces? Could access to parks also be limited by these less visible legal, institutional, or financial systems? Not just physical safety concerns?
That's a crucial connection to make. This research powerfully shows that spatial enclosure, the physical gate, isn't the only driver of social exclusion. Maybe not even the main one sometimes.
Right.
Legal institutions like homeowner association rules or co-op bylaws, governance structures, who gets to make the rules, and the financialization of daily life, the emphasis on property values, they all play hugely important roles. This interweaving of space, law, governance, finance, it intensifies social fragmentation and segregation. And it's often hidden behind the seemingly neutral discourse of safety, security, or maintaining standards.
So for parks,
For the Feminist Park Project, it means we absolutely cannot just look at the physical design of a park. We need to analyze the less visible systems around it. What are the funding models? What are the policies of the local parks department? Are there nearby homeowner association rules that implicitly restrict who uses the park or how they use it?
maybe rules about noise or large gatherings or specific activities that might disproportionately affect certain groups, including women or specific cultural communities.
Exactly. Understanding securitization in this broader sense as a web of spatial, legal, financial, and social controls empowers us to identify and challenge these often hidden systems of exclusion, not just in private housing, but in our public spaces too.
Wow, okay, that's a lot to think about. We've gone from ancient plazas to modern markets to private enclaves. So bringing it all together, what does this all mean for us, listening, moving through the world, and specifically for the work of the Feminist Park Project?
Well, I think the big takeaway is that spatial analysis, this spatializing culture approach, it's just such a critical tool. It helps us peel back the layers and uncover the hidden biases, the prejudices, the inequalities that are literally built into our environments.
It makes the invisible visible.
Exactly. It challenges our assumptions about what seems natural or normal or just the way things are in the places we live, work, and play. And that makes it a really powerful method for engaged anthropology work that aims to promote social justice and actually improve people's lives.
By showing how exclusion works spatially.
Right. For the Feminist Park Project, this is fundamental. It helps us move beyond just saying, yes, there's a gender disparity in park use, to really understanding and hopefully dismantling the complex spatial, social, and discursive roots of that disparity.
So as we close out this deep dive, maybe a final thought for you, the listener. The spaces you inhabit, think about your neighborhood park, the streets you walk down, maybe even your own home or apartment building. They aren't just neutral backdrops. As we've heard, they are actively shaped by history, by power, and often by these hidden systems of exclusion. So the question to reflect on is, what stories do the spaces around you tell? What insights might you gain if you started looking at them through this spatializing culture lens? What assumed norms, what just the way things are, aspects of your surroundings might you start to question, especially thinking about who feels welcome, who feels safe, and who might be implicitly excluded?
It really is a call to look differently, isn't it?
It is a call for collective imagination and hopefully tangible change.
And on that note, please, if you're interested in shaping the future of urban green spaces, help us out. Fill in the survey from the Feminist Park Project. We really want to hear from you about what kind of green urban space you would like to see to help construct. You can find the link in our show notes.
Please do. Your input is invaluable.
This knowledge is a tool, really. A tool for seeing your city differently and potentially for helping to change it.
It's been a really insightful deep dive, I think. This document provides such a vital framework, especially for projects like the Feminist Park Project that are trying to build something fundamentally different. It shows just how interlinked urban design and social justice are.
It really does. But it also shows the scale of the challenge, right? It requires sustained effort, real commitment, and a genuine willingness to shift power dynamics in how cities get made and managed.
Definitely. It makes you think about how we ensure those voices, the ones that have been excluded, are actually heard and centered.
There's another quote from Sarah Ahmed in the handbook that feels relevant here.
Go on.
She says, "If you have to shout to be heard, you are heard as shouting."
That's powerful.
It makes you ponder, doesn't it? How can the design of public space itself work differently? How can it amplify the voices of those who've been historically silenced, ensuring their needs are met without them having to shout just to be noticed?
How can design itself listen? That's a really provocative thought to end on.
A lot to think about.
Indeed. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.